Welcome. We are in the Electrical Committee. It is October 5th, 2023. Present are Councilman Sprinkle and Councilman Clay, Public Works Director Troy Kruger, and we'll be joined shortly by Kurt Hawkinson, the Electrical Superintendent. Go ahead, Troy. Take her away with this.
Well, so today, I guess, what you have before you is the budget, current as I have it. This came out on Wednesday. So, if you guys have any questions on that.
Do you ever print your revenues too to go with it?
No,
Why?
because I just deal in expenses.
No, you have to see your revenues too.
But my budget is set. It doesn't matter what revenues we're bringing in, because my budget is set. I can't overspend that. I can't overspend my budget.
But if the revenues don't meet the budget, then we can't spend what we budgeted, because we have a budgeted revenue. Well, Todd. It's good to look at that. I know your revenues are strong in this department, and they are, actually, last year when we budgeted the revenues for the electrical department, we were like 0.1% off, that precise. And this year, I think we're trending
Oh,
up a little bit from that, but pretty damn close again, so.
I look at them. I don't print them.
These guys need to see them too,
But my budget is set by these guys, and that's what we spend.
based on the revenues.
But it's set by council.
Bring the revenues.
I'll start bringing the revenues.
I like the revenues too.
Um,
It's all good.
The power outage is still on. No, we talked to all the hospitals, the schools, airport. That is, I guess that's one thing that, Dave's not here, but I got a guy coming next Thursday, and we're going to, I just want to get some numbers and some prices to do some, possibly do, backup generation for the airport. So, the last time we had a power out, it was the planned outage. It was my mistake, and I didn't communicate with the airport. And, they actually had a life flight going out at like, midnight. And so Paul Sheets got a hold of somebody from the light department, and they contacted WAPA, and we delayed that outage like a half an hour so that they could get that flight out. If it's after dark and the lights aren't on the runway, Dave has to shut the airport down. They can't fly without the runway lights.
Is there a backup generator that we could,
There's nothing right now.
there's nothing now?
So I got a guy coming next Thursday from 3E. That's the company that services all of our generators in the city. And just to get some rough numbers on what it would cost to, Ray and I went out there and looked at it yesterday, how we could feed it, and he's got a 200 amp panel in the city-owned portion of the building that runs that building, the radios, his beacon, and the runway lights, along with a bunch of other stuff. But that would be my suggestion, I guess, would be to get that panel on a backup generator, if you guys choose to do that, because that way he could function. If we had a power outage out there, the airport could still operate, and that would give him radios and lights for the runway. So
Do we have a portable generator we could take out there, or are you talking about buying one out for?
we looked, we do not. It would
Does the
take.
county have one that we could maybe borrow?
Well, we looked at how to tie it. We looked at a couple of different things. So it's to run we have a generator down at the shop that we use it's a portable generator, and we can run a welder, we can run different things like that off it. To get his runway lights on, that's not big enough. And we'd have to do some wiring in that panel, we'd have to feed, we'd have to shut off all the breakers to everything else, but just specifically what he would need, which would be probably his runway lights. I think he said he could communicate with cell phone. But, the city does not own a generator, a portable generator that is big enough to just operate the runway lights. Dave wasn't real concerned about this next one, but depending upon what they find with this one, they're gonna have to fix what they find, and so there's a good, there's a good possibility that we could have another planned outage.
Yeah, even if we are to hook up there, there needs to be a transfer switch put in place on there, because that's when we're talking about like backfeeding on, back onto our system and stuff like that, so he needs to ideally not flipping breakers. It's, yes, I'd say, yeah, that would work, pulling a meter, but, I mean, it can feed back onto us on there, and we're not really gonna be working on this one, but let's say the snowstorm came in there and somebody decided, oh, well, we gotta plug the generator back in there, and we're out there working, that's when it starts to backfeed onto our system and starts to energize the transformers from the low side, and that's how linemen get hit and
Well,
everything, so.
this one would have a switch on it, an automatic switch and everything. We're not just talking about bringing a generator up there and
Yeah, and that's
throwing it in there for the.
portable one and stuff like that. I mean, even then, we have one in our shop, a small one to like just run our garage doors open, where we got a transfer switch that we manually throw a handle, start the generator, plug it in just to get the garage door up so we can get a truck out to start working. That would be the bare minimum I would suggest if it was going into a portable style one thing, but and I've talked to him about it, like right when I first got here, the way like that main hanger and stuff is fed out there, it's not ideally. I mean, it's a long way of buried wire that's, I don't think's in conduit and stuff, so I told him that.
It's not. It's in the old system it needs to be updated. It's down on a pole down by that bottom hanger, and it's just 200 amp fuses in there. It's just a disconnect on a pole, and
Yeah.
it's barely hanging there. It's not
Really?
in very good shape.
This is
Yeah.
by our hangar down below.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, where we would do the backup generator is Dave's got on the back side of his building there. Ray and I looked at that, and we could tie in a switch, and it all goes into a box just before it goes into the building to feed that. And I'm gonna have the guy come in, the 3E guy, obviously that's what they do is generators, but it would be an automatic switch. It would be, I mean, we're not talking about just temporary wiring in something here. This would be a generator that would sit out there, be a permanent fixture at the airport. And then it would be wired in just like all of our other generators for our lift station and our well
Right.
houses and our chlorine building up on the top of the hill. Those are all on switches that when the power goes out, the switch transfers over, and then the generator kicks on and it runs the facility. So just looking at it, just want to be able to come to council with numbers. I think I wasn't aware that life flight went out the last time we had that power outage till after it happened, and if it ever did happen, that, Dave's kind of out there by himself, there's no way to backfeed the airport, because there's only one way in and one way out with electricity, and there's a run of poles that go out to the airport. Everything's still up in the air, so if we had a bad storm or a windstorm or an ice storm or something, and we had to do a bunch of, rewiring to get them back up and running.
I guess
wouldn't
my
be a bad
question
idea.
is, why was this neglected for all these years? Nothing done about it.
But it wouldn't, with that, it kind of changes everything
Prior
when you
to-
have that light flight out
Yeah.
there. I mean, that's
That's
a
what
big
I'm
deal.
saying,
And it's not only just, what is the name of them?
Bob Wiley,
No, the company.
Guardian.
Guardian Flight. But Guardian isn't the only one that uses the airport.
right.
Sanford and Bear, they both
Yeah.
use, they both use it too, so it's just something that, just wanted to make you guys aware of what we're looking at and what things that we're thinking of doing out there, but I just want to get some numbers put together so we have some figures to look at.
You're aware our 24 budget's done.
Say again?
You are aware that our 2024 budget is done.
Yeah, this isn't something that we're looking at doing like tomorrow.
But my
next.
suggestion was, when we first talked about it, you remember years ago, we bought the snow blower with the fuel tax credits from the airport. There is a possibility that when Chandra gets back, we can take a look at our fuel tax credits. The other thing that we will do is we're gonna get in touch with Helms, who's our aeronautical engineer, to see if there's grants available. Because per your question, the airport's been there since what, the 50s?
Yep.
But to go this long as things have changed and services
Well, I
have
mean,
increased.
When they extended the runway and all this and that,
Right.
they should have been looking at it then.
I don't know that we had planned outages then. I don't know that we had a lot of outages.
But you never know when an outage is gonna happen.
That's correct. It makes perfect sense to explore this right now, and we're the council to get this done. But Jeremy, I understand your concern, and I thought about that, and I was trying to think of some alternative funding
There's
sources.
potential grants and.
Yeah.
And there's dollars that only can be spent at the airport, which that would be fine. I just want to say our budget's done.
Yeah,
Yeah, this is, I mean, we just need to, I
Good
just
point.
think this is the time to bring it up, to talk about it.
Yep.
It's not fresh on everyone's mind. If we have some fat figures, we know what we're looking at, what it's gonna cost the city, and then we can explore options on how to get it done.
I don't
If you
disagree
guys
that-
choose to go that route.
I don't disagree that it's a need and it's something that needs to be addressed, definitely. Just if we can find alternative funding sources, great. Back to the planned power outage for Saturday. It's Saturday, this Saturday, the 7th.
Yep.
And the time of it is from 6 AM to 11-ish,
Yep.
correct?
Yep.
If any of the public's listening, again, reminder, 6 AM this Saturday, I got a phone call yesterday about it, to 11 AM-ish, we think. Okay, thank you.
so one of the things with that planned power outage, we were talking I got a call from a business. They open at 8 o'clock, they're open till 11. They were told that they would be out, but they come in, they thought it started at 8. I'm like, no, it starts at 6 o'clock. And they go, if we come in early, then we're not gonna have power. And I'm like, no, you're not gonna have power at 6 AM if I'm being accurate. So I don't know who informed them 8 to 11, but we need to let the public know it is from 6 AM to 11 AM. So those businesses that might come in 7, 6:30, they don't expect there to be power and try to get something done, and there's nothing.
It's been on the radio since last Friday,
At 6?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
and it's been on our media. The citywide alert went out on Monday. It's been on our social media page,
good.
so.
People still miss it, though.
No word on the transformer yet out at the sub on when they plan on doing that or what it's gonna cost us. Reading through the contracts, looks like that's gonna be on the city. And then the hot topic was,
Go ahead.
Jody handed out everybody.
I was gonna excuse Jeremy just from this discussion,
Sure.
just, if you don't mind, Jeremy, we'll come back.
Not a problem.
I want to address the process
I don't
of,
think this affects him. This is everybody in general. This is any time we do
Oh,
this.
that's fine.
but this one has to be, I want to ask some
Oh.
questions specifically about this one,
I need
just to
more
get
coffee.
clarification. Thank you.
Gotta leave too.
No, you can't run. It's you and I and Kurt and Troy. So we're looking at this invoice. I put it in front of you, CJ, and my question, and we won't give any names here, but on the second line, we show 5 employee hours at 3 hours apiece. Those units were 5, 250. That breaks down to $50 a unit, which is the standard rate. Why didn't we make that 15 units? And maybe you don't know this. Maybe this is a question for the finance.
I seen that it's got 2 digger trucks on there. We've had both buckets and our digger truck on there. I guess how I made the bill was 5 employees at 3 hours, and then I did the 50 times, so it was 5 times 3 times 50 for the hours, I guess. And then I noticed that, yeah, the labor
was added on, and it should have just been 15 units.
Yeah, on there, I guess I usually list the names of the guys that were out there, when I have made them, but on there, because I know, like, when we were doing that FEMA thing, she couldn't charge for me when I was out there working.
Okay.
Because I was a salaried supervisor, but I've just been listing our names and everything, so.
So looking, the labor units below shouldn't be there, and it should just be 15 units up top.
I think, yeah.
And that would have been a price of 50 per unit,
Yeah.
which would have only have been $750 instead of $1250. If I'm doing my math correct, 15 units times 50. I just needed this clarification.
Is that the correct price for a pole?
Yeah.
Because most of our poles are around that $400
That's-
range.
I bought some this spring, and that's what they are, to replace them. If we went and bought one, well, I can't say if we bought one today, but when we bought it, it's $741.
So did we use one of the poles that we bought, or did we have other poles
Yeah,
we could have
we-
replaced it with that have been bought
It
at a
would've
different
been-
time? Or that's my question, how do you figure that out? You know, do we
We almost.
charge what the last time we bought a supply, or do we average it out, or how do you?
Or you'd have to, like, when we do it, I can make a contact to a vendor and just say, if we had to
Current
buy one
price.
today, because when I was getting quotes for that, they were quoting me on a week, and that was it. And they said that prices can fluctuate within a week on that quote, so that was what it is, and I think.
Replacement cost.
Yeah, and they did, I think they went up 50%, I mean, from the last time that they were bought, so. And the 40-footers, I bought all those because we were down to our last 3 or 4 or something like that on them, so it's,
Kurt, was that cross arm in bad shape caused by the accident?
yeah, so when I got there and it was hit through, it didn't break, like, you tie the wire in and it's really kind of soft metal, it's almost, I don't wanna say it's aluminum, but it didn't break the tie wires, it actually ripped the insulators through the crossarm on the crossarm pins, it ripped it through that crossarm. And they did it before I was here, and it's starting to go to, people are putting up fiberglass crossarms, and that's kind of what we do here, we don't put any wood ones back up and everything like that, so yeah, I mean, it was done for on there. I went up there and I untied, like, it ripped the pins right through there. The pole was being held up on the neutral wire, and it was already untied on there, on that, and it broke the insulator, I guess, on it, and it was being held up that way.
Okay.
And it was kicked back 6 foot from where it was actually tied in on it.
I think anytime a pole gets, you know, hit like that or blown over or anything, you know, it's kind of like, it's kind of like changing the brake pads on your
Right.
car. You're not just gonna change one brake pad, you're gonna change it, you know, you're gonna make sure that the structure's sound before you put it back up. So I think changing the cross arm's pretty much gonna happen, whether he can see physical damage or not, just because you don't wanna put it back up and then 2 months later, you got wires hanging down.
Well, you gotta take it off the old pole and put it on the new pole, you got labor and time and that, so I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I
You
mean,
can do it down on the ground. a
Did
lot
you have
easier.
3 trucks there?
Yeah.
You did. So the 214 digger is actually 2 separate trucks.
Yeah, it's our big bucket would have been the other one, same price. I think I have that, they're the same price as on my sheet, but it was the 03 bucket truck would have been the other one.
Instead of the digger
Yeah.
twice. Okay.
And as far as billing in the future, I guess we did a lot of this at my last job, and they billed it as if the truck had to be there on site for any given reason. They billed it from the time it got there until the time it left.
Yep.
But if we wanna do it as it's only being worked for an hour, I don't care. I just
No,
wanna know type of a thing, I guess, for it, but I guess that's how I've been making up the bills.
no, that's, as part of the process, if that equipment is there, whether it's being used or not, if it might need to be because of the emergency situation, I don't have a problem with that. I just was looking at 2014 digger twice, and I don't know that you put it that way, or if that came out of the finance office, billed that way. Just some clarification.
Mr. Mayor, what do you come up with a total then?
Just kind of reworking this.
1992?
$3,069.90. Which I think is, which is accurate based on the employee units. There were 5 times 3 hours, 15 units at 50 hours. That was $750 instead of $1250. The labor down below was stricken, though the 5 entries of 153, everything else is accurate. It was just that misunderstanding. So, enough about this incident, but we were gonna talk now about process and, not just, this involves, more public works, because we're gonna talk about the police station and police department and the city attorney's office too, and how we get this where it's streamlined and council's comfortable and all the employees.
Not bad.
Now I invite Councilman Clay back.
I made a flow chart.
A flow chart, I like it, Troy. I'm a flow chart guy. Do you care to hand it out?
No, I drove to Sioux Falls yesterday to go get materials and visit with our engineers on our street signing deal for Monday's meeting. But windshield time is always a good time to think and get your thoughts put together before you come to meetings. So, in light of all of this activity that's happened, I just came up with what makes, in my mind, makes the most sense. But it's just my opinion and whatever. So I got my supervisors, and then we have the police department, and most times in public works, if city property gets damaged, it's going to come from, we hear it from the public a lot. And they call either myself or Kelly or Mark or whatever, so it goes to the supervisor. The other instance where it's gonna be, probably city property getting, it's gonna be a driving accident or something like that, and that's gonna come from the police department side. So those are our two sources of where we are going to hear about,
Damage.
damage to public property. So, and you and I talked about this a little bit, and yesterday I suggested to go to the lawyer first, and I rethought that. And here's the reasons why. So if it goes to the Public Works Director first, number one, we can make sure that it's city property. We've got a lot around the town, we've got a lot of poles and things that are, they're Rosebud, but they're right up against the city limits. So in the first thing to do would be to make sure that it's, that it's city property, and that would be the Public Works along with the supervisor or whatever. We would determine make sure that is city property. And then the other one would be, the reason that it would come to the Public Works Director first is the importance of getting it replaced. If we hit a fire hydrant or a power pole or something like that, then
The most important thing is.
number one thing is to make sure that it's a city
It's a safety.
utility,
and
and we need to
service.
get that utility back to its previous condition as soon as we can. We want to make sure that pole is good, or we want to make sure that hydrant is workable, and that if we need to look at it, we need to make sure if it's leaking underground. There's just a lot of things we got to put our eyes on and make sure that the utility's back to the way it's supposed to be. And then the second you know, second obvious reason is just get the crews rolling on it. You know, if guys are busy doing stuff and somebody, no one says anything about it, it gets put off and put off and put off. Next thing you know, something didn't get fixed, and it did get fixed in a timely manner, and then it interrupts our service to the city. After that, I think it goes to the lawyer. I think the lawyer gets it, and I think for a couple of reasons. Number one, if it comes from the police department and it's an accident report or whatever, there might be information in there that they won't want me to see, or they don't want, you know, it could be an investigation on or something like that. So I guess all a public works director needs to know is what got hit, you know, why it, and so we can get it back to its operating condition. But as far as assessing the penalty or the fine or the replacement cost, I think that goes, you know, that goes to the lawyer.
So then, and we've talked about this a little bit, the attorney at that point, the city attorney can get an accident report, and then from the supervisors, or you get all the replacement costs, put it together, and then the city attorney and the finance officer put it together to take to the committee to see what's gonna happen, if anything. I mean, if nobody wants a reduction in the fees and it's just gonna go through, it needs to come from the city attorney because of damage to city property. City attorney will then coordinate between, in this case, it would have been the electrical department, getting all the materials and equipment involved. And then we'll hand that off to the finance office to get billed out appropriately.
I was gonna go a step further and say the lawyer brings it to the committee.
I agree with you.
I think the lawyer brings it to
100%.
the
He
committee, and
presents
he
to the
brings it up
committee.
in the committee,
Yeah.
like, and he, you know, he can explain the situation, he can, you know,
Let's use a traffic sign as an example. So, as an example, this winter, we're gonna have a nasty winter. Somebody slides up on a stop sign, it hits, and it's gone. Immediately, the police department responds, if it's reported. They do their accident report, that will go to the city attorney, but they call the public works director or street supervisor. Most important thing that can happen, that street sign gets replaced immediately. So those guys get out there and get it fixed. The accident report now is with the city attorney. The city attorney coordinates to find out from the street supervisor or public works director, what are the replacement costs to get that sign up? It is damaged taxpayer dollars. Gets all that information, bills it out to the finance office, and then at that point, it's another expenditure, and it's coming back to this committee, and it's not gonna happen often, but at least the appropriate committee, which in this example we're throwing out would be streets and sanitation, would see just the final bill.
Let me give you an example of things happening in the city. With the new highway construction project, they have shear pins on our stop signs.
Yep.
Wind snaps them over. The one out in front of my office, wind blew it over and snapped. It's a shear pin, right? I backed into one with my four-wheeler, tapped it. I tapped it. I was backing up, pushing snow,
We need to bill you.
and it went over. I called Kelly. I'm not trying to use
Right.
any special privilege. I called Kelly. I said, I tapped this pole. It happens all the time. Him and Gerald came over, stood it up, dropped a pin in. Pin $5? I don't know. I agree, we need to have a process. But that's a whole big process for a $5 pin.
So in this scenario, there's no accident report. The $5 can be reported to the city attorney, he can bring it to the committee can go, we're not going after $5. That becomes common sense. $5 versus,
Okay.
let's
You need to
say,
watch where you're backing up.
The attorney brings it to the committee, and the committee says, yeah.
yeah,
and that's what that's another, you know, like we got into this the other night, and not gonna go there, but, you don't have that, you know,
Just, we're trying to
What-
point the proper
well, I mean,
channels.
This needs to be talked about. I think the other reason that this is important is how many times, use for example, I got a couple examples. A couple years ago, a group of kids were up at Leahy Bowl and they kicked in all the backboards on the dugouts.
Yeah.
They kicked them all in. Quite a bit of expense to the city, time and labor to replace that, to get that dugout back to the way it was. Materials, time, paint, you know, we had a lot, we spent a day fixing that dugout from the damage that was done. You know, it needs to go to the lawyer. That needs to follow that incident and, you know, are we ever gonna get our money back out of it? You know, first we have to catch the people that do it.
Perpetrators.
And that was, you know, that, I don't know.
Nobody was held liable for it.
I mean, when people started asking around, they did see a group of individuals up there. But I never heard any more after that. I don't know if the police followed through on it. I don't know if they
But that
caught him,
shouldn't
if
be,
they
that
asked
shouldn't be
any.
your job to have to follow up on that. And I agree, it's the attorney's
City
job to
attorney.
work with the police department and
But
investigate.
I don't have time to follow
Right,
that around
yeah.
and be a detective and
Shouldn't have to.
follow up on that.
Mhm.
But if we did catch those kids, if the police did catch those kids, or that group of people, then then they need to pay for that. You know, that needs to be paid for. Same thing
And
that
it should
happened.
be the attorney working with the PD through that process. I agree with where the process is.
It's the, you know, that's the kind of stuff where in the past where we've just let it, you know, well, we didn't hear any more about it, you know, but on our side, we have to get it fixed. We gotta put it back to the way it was. So,
How about the bathrooms?
what's that?
The bathrooms.
The bathrooms, this spring, when, we just got done remodeling those bathrooms, new toilets, new sink, new everything. And 2 months after we got them done, they totally destroyed that bathroom.
And we found out who did it. I thought we knew on camera.
I don't know, I never
I
heard.
was just wondering, we
But
went
that's-
after them for paint and time and labor.
No follow-up.
Public Works shouldn't know that.
Right,
But-
I'm asking you. It's the same scenarios we have here in front of us.
Right.
Vandalize the bathrooms. Troy's gotten thrown under the bus pretty hard.
Yep.
In my opinion, because he didn't see it or did see the process or whatever, and if people have said if he did see it, it wouldn't have went any further. Well, there's other people within the city that made a decision to not pursue a bill. What's the difference? You know, we're talking about a $5 shear pin, we're gonna run the work, the process. Processes are good if they're completely followed. That's why I brought that $5 shear pin up. We still gonna work the process? Yeah, I like it. You let the people know, it goes to the attorney brings it to the committee says $5 shear pin, we're done. Just like graffiti, whatever. Work the process, go in, the attorney bring it to the committee, and the committee says, yeah, it took you 3 hours, you painted it, cleaned it up. But it's the same. Dollars amounts are different, but it's the same process.
I like it.
Yeah.
I do. I like it going that direction.
I think just Troy's being unfairly roasted when there's other examples around that are the same.
And I'm not trying to
No,
duck.
I'm just speaking about
Yeah,
it.
no, I agree 100%. I'm not trying to duck out on this deal, but I don't think it falls under my job description to write up and assess that bill. You know, some of it's pretty cut and dry, but in other cases, it's not. And if we're gonna follow the process, I think that's where the attorney does that billing, and along with the finance office.
The attorney's gonna go back to
The
the
attorney's gonna go back
supervisor.
and he's gonna talk, you know,
You and the
obviously, I already know
supervisor.
about it, because that's gonna be your flow chart.
Right.
I already know about it, and the reasons why is so that we get it fixed and we get it back to the way it's supposed to be. But after that, it goes to the attorney, and then when it comes to the pursuing to make it right for the
Restitution.
damages, that, I don't have, you know, that's not, I don't think that falls under, that doesn't fall under my supervisors, and that doesn't fall under me. That falls under a different,
He's gonna have to come back to find out materials, man hours, and
Yep.
equipment that were used.
Yep.
That's where you guys will come
Yep.
back in.
but that,
So
in
you're
that
gonna
way.
have to document all that when you're out there on one of these jobs,
Yep.
every time.
Because that brings up some of the other questions that I have
Hold on,
about
Kurt,
this.
Kurt, go ahead.
I mean, I dealt with a lot of this in my last job. I mean, we'd get phone calls from the cop, you know, when the street light fell over. there'd be tracks in the snow, or was it the wind, or whatever like that, we billed. Came in there, foreman said, what happened, this is what happened, how many hours were you out there, what'd you do? Okay, we need to go replace it. The bill got made, don't know what happened to it after, anything like that. I guess that's where I'm at. I
City
make that
attorney
bill,
in this
and then
process.
Yeah, so make the bill, even if I think, yeah, it just tipped over, make the bill, hand it to him, that way. if something
Then it's
came
in his hand and then he decides where it
Yeah,
goes.
and that would be a safe assumption of just make the bill, hand it off to let Troy know. I'd like to give a hard copy to the lawyer and then email Troy, or if he wants a hard copy, whatever it may be.
No,
this.
we gotta work the chain of command. You can't skip the public works director.
Good.
You have to use the chain of command, have to. Just, we have to, everybody has to use the chain of command. If you don't use the chain of command effectively or properly, it breaks down. Just like the policies and procedures, it breaks down. You have to. You have to go with the public works director.
So bill it out, go across
Yep, has to go with the
Troy's
public
desk
works.
as Public Works Director, and then he gets it to the city attorney. I'm good with that.
Yeah.
I'm good with that.
But billing it, it's a little bit more work. but
Billing it,
it's
no, he's
done.
billing it, no
Yeah,
matter what.
But you're there on the job, you know,
Yeah,
you figured out the
I'd
new
rather have it
ticket.
done now than 2 weeks, and
Yeah.
I'm like, well, crap.
I don't-
Yeah.
Right.
What did we do? Yeah, on there, okay, and then it could have took us 3 hours, well, I thought it took us 5, or something like that.
Yeah.
It could have went both ways, more or less,
Okay.
whatever it may be.
Should we do a written
Yeah.
procedure, or policy
Yeah.
procedure, however it works?
Yeah, I'll put one together with Mr. Jensen and make sure that,
But I can't stress enough, Jody, we have, Mr. Mayor,
That's
we
fine.
have to work the chain of command, have to, both ways, down and up, have to.
okay? I appreciate that.
My other question is, you know, so we have our equipment resolution, and it spells out the, you know, what we charge per piece of equipment, and then, per operator for that piece of equipment, because we just talked about that in another meeting here not too long ago, just for anybody to operate the City of Winter piece of equipment, doesn't work, you know, we gotta have it for insurance reasons and whatever, so we have to have that person sign a waiver. Good example of that is, you know, just here like a month ago, we had a private contractor, no other option to working on a building, and called the city, hey, can you guys help us out with this? We did, we built it out per our equipment resolution, just like, you know, we followed the rules. But when we're doing work, like in a use this pole as an example, a pole, that resolution, that's a different deal. That's for outside of the City of Winter. So I quit, that, I'm just asking for my knowledge, because I don't know what that, how, the ordinance doesn't spell it out. The ordinance just says
Let's
that.
take a look at this. The
That resolution is for a whole different deal.
The resolution is to make sure that people don't come to us and we become a cheaper option. There are businesses in Winter that operate those pieces of equipment, and they have their set rates. We're supposed to be high enough that we deter people from trying to come to the city, that they go
Yep.
to utilize those services. You bring a good question up.
But my question is.
I get your
is
question.
when we have city employees working on city equipment during city time, do we charge for that?
So
Because the resolution was put in place not for us using our equipment on our time. It
But
was,
separate
here-
it
here's
was
the-
for
here's-
exactly what you just spelled out.
Here's the scenario, though, that's different in winter
I'm
than a
just
lot. I know, and I think I have the answer, but I'm gonna open this up for everybody to hear this, and then you can decide. Rapid City, Sioux Falls, Pierre, Mitchell, Winter, all have big enough public works departments that their own employees handle a lot of this. In communities smaller, Platte, Burke, they don't have the equipment or the people to do that, so it's hired out to a different agency that comes in and does the work for the city. You hire that out. We do our own work all the time, so therefore our resolution, we have to still follow that rate because we do our own work. And in some cases, it saves us a lot of money when it comes to bids. And I don't know, I'm
I
gonna
have-
open this up. This is a good,
I have an example, kind of, I think, I'm pretty sure I was on ordinance committee when we retooled that rate. An example that was on my mind is on my mind again now, is mowing charge. We talked about that quite a bit, because as the mayor said, we don't want to be cheaper than a company in town that mows lawns. And people just rely on the city coming and mowing their lawn for them, let it get tall, we mow it and we bill them, okay? So we're higher and we have to be higher. Part of a deterrent, but plus we don't want to compete with the local businesses by it all. But when we set the rate for mowing, it was fully included, not talked about, nor intended to charge for an operator. Everybody knows when the city mows the property, and there's a rate. We're not charging for the man hours plus the mowing machine. It's just the mowing machine. That's it. That's all I have on it. It's included. That's my example.
Yeah,
And I think that speaks to it.
I
Just what
don't,
you're talking about.
that's,
that's interesting.
that's, yeah, that's a good example. That's, that,
So if somebody wants to rent a ditch witch for $500 an hour, whatever our rate is, I don't know. And we talk, it's the same, you know, our man goes with our machinery. If our rate's not high enough, we need to whack it up.
So
We
I
need
have
to
a
get on it.
question, I have to ask
Or
this.
break it apart, whatever.
I have this question, I have to ask it now. I'm gonna use, who's got bucket trucks in winter? We'll just, nobody in
Right,
particular.
people do.
A company that has a bucket truck and they're billing you as a customer for that bucket truck to be over there. Our resolution rate for our bucket truck is $150 an hour. That includes a man.
Yeah.
The competitor that we're trying to stay higher than is $125 an hour. It does not include the man. The hour rate's gotta be added on top of that. So,
Sometimes it does, Jody.
well, let's find out.
But it needs to be
depends on your-
We have
defined.
to find out.
I think the difference though is if you hire somebody to do a service for you, they're in it for a profit and they're gonna bill out all their equipment. The city's not in it for a profit. We're just, what we wanna do is get that
Balance it.
utility back to the way it was. And so that's the line, that's
Right.
where, that's the question I'm asking. Are we and you brought up like.
Are we
smaller-
high enough?
You brought up smaller communities that have to hire those services out. Who knows how that works? Is it in the contract? Is it in the contract that they take care of that no matter what? If it's an accident or, snow removal or, so, a pole gets hit or a fire hydrant gets hit or whatever, does Rosebud take care of that or does rural water take care of that? Is it in the contract or do they bill out each individual thing separately? I don't know that. I don't know how those other utilities, co-ops do that kind of stuff for those smaller communities, but I guess,
I
the
think,
difference between us and the private sector is we're not trying to make money when we fix broken city property.
Yeah,
We're just trying to get the utility back to where it was and keep the cost down on the city side so that we're not paying for each one of these expenses.
that's the other side of it, you know.
We used an example.
We have the renting the equipment out, somebody wanting to go put in a water line
Right,
or
that's a
whatever.
whole different subject.
And that they're related, it's gonna be under the same ordinance, isn't it?
It is, but he's saying there's two
Right.
different parameters.
Yeah, it is. There's two sides to it. I think the ordinance committee is gonna need to take a look at this, look at the rates again, look at maybe splitting it. Okay, should we be billing, when we do that lawnmower charge, should we be billing a guy too? Or a bucket truck or whatever? But the current ordinance does not include
Does
a
not.
man. Does not. It's only the machine.
Actually, I'm gonna use myself for an example.
Uh-oh.
That lift of mine, somebody wants to rent it, no way.
Right.
It comes with an operator. The price I give them is including the operator.
So that's the way you do it, includes you. Yeah.
And-
Either way, we gotta look at the rates and
And
make sure.
here's the
they're
reason
correct.
that we have
You
the
said
res-
sometimes. you're one of those cases, but there are other individuals, other
Exactly, they
companies-
like to hide that part in there when they say, okay, yeah, we'll use the bucket truck or whatever to do this. But
And
then when
have
they get the
man-hours on
bill,
top.
there's a guy hourly charged there.
And here's the reason that we have that equipment resolution in the first place. It is set in place to protect the citizens of Winter.
Replacement costs.
No.
Every hour on that machine.
The reason that resolution was set in place is to protect the citizens of Winter. For example, I have a water leak between my house and my neighbor's house. And I've got a substantial leak back there. I call around and I can't get a contractor to get over there and fix it. And I know that it's gonna cause damage to my basement, and it's gonna cause the property damage to my house, and it's gonna cause property damage to my neighbor's house. Now, the city can go in and fix that water leak after they've exhausted all the other avenues, but we have to charge them according to that resolution. That's why that resolution was put in place, so that we can go in and do work
If nobody else is
if
available.
nobody else is available to do it.
like the
so
bid
that
process,
So that we
same
can
deal.
keep those people, so we can keep the damage minimal. And that's why that resolution was, that's the only reason that we have that, in my opinion, is because that allows us to bill out at a rate that's set by council and do the work that no one else is, that nobody else can do for whatever reason, so we can.
I don't know if it's the only reason. The other part of the reason is to dissuade people from using the city's equipment for their personal projects.
Well, that would be a no-brainer.
Right.
If it wasn't that way, our equipment wouldn't be available to anybody.
Yeah.
Because it'd
We
be
would
going
just-
all the time.
It wouldn't be. I mean, it would just be, nope, that's the city of Winters, it's not available to you. You gotta go, you gotta go someplace else. But we can't say that because we have to have that equipment available to take care of our customers if no one else can.
Part of our hourly rate, you bought your piece of equipment. You know how many hours of life it's got, and you have to have replacement costs
Yeah.
on that equipment too, so you set your rate there. It's unfairly, city, municipalities, counties, states, federal government, we always end up paying a higher, it's a government entity, we're gonna charge more. We have a replacement cost that's also figured into that, because the more hours
Well,
that we're doing on personal,
If you look at those rates, as far as, like Troy says, if they go in and do something, those rates would be fine. But I'm gonna tell you right now, you can't go to a loan or some rental place and get one of those pieces of equipment for that kind of money. It's gonna be a hell of a lot more.
We're too cheap. Yeah. Or you're saying we're too cheap on our set rates?
I feel that
Yeah. They need revisited
Yeah,
if
we're-
they're gonna come in and rent a piece of equipment from us,
with an
we're too damn
operator.
cheap
With an operator.
with an operator.
Yeah. It needs revisited.
It's too cheap.
And the other thing is the availability of it and where we're located in South Dakota. If you wanted to rent that piece of equipment in Sioux Falls, you got.
You gotta pay trucking
you got
and everything
50
else.
You got 50 different options. But here in Winter, the price it would cost you to get it here, and then if you can even get a hold of it, yeah, it's gonna be astronomically high. It's gonna be real, it's gonna be a whole different ballgame.
What's the rate for the sod cutter? Like $4 an hour or something, or? We don't have one, do we? Because that's a new piece of equipment that we didn't have during the ordinance was created. Must
Yeah.
be free.
We just updated it this spring.
Oh, okay.
And the sod cutter, and then we just got another new piece of equipment, a cedar aerator that goes on the front of that Ventrec, and they're not on that.
Perfect, because
not-
I got a spot that I need some sod cut in my yard.
Yeah.
Go buy one.
well, I will tell you, we've looked at some, going back to your point, we've looked at some quotes on all kinds of different pieces of equipment, from bucket trucks, replacing bucket trucks, to fire trucks, and I'm telling you, the hourly rate we're charging is not enough to get us
No.
close to replacement costs. So the resolution probably needs to be addressed, to your point, or to your question on, should there be resolution subsection A subsection B.
2 separate resolutions or whatever.
Don't know. That's for you guys to decide as council.
Ordinance, have ordinance work on it. They don't have anything to do.
Ooh.
Is that clockwork now?
It is.
I
It
said
is
it
9
was.
Oh,
o'clock.
I got one last thing. Kurt brought it up yesterday, we talked about it. He had a suggestion, and I agree wholeheartedly with him. Storage unit facility here in town, the customer, the owner of it would like to add some equipment onto it, and the way the thing is set up is the city actually owns the poles and the wires that are in that facility. And we have a meter that's on the building, but anything after that meter, we'd have to meter
No.
he wants to put some, I think he said he wants to put some power outlets on some of the poles, and he wants to do a couple other things. I talked to him about it a little bit yesterday, his electrician, and, so Kurt's suggestion was, we just give the customer the poles and the wire, and that we meter it we just meter it coming in, and that way, if he wants to do anything else, because the way the whole thing is set up without us doing a whole bunch of changing
I
is
agree.
every time he adds on a power outlet or just a 110 outlet or something, we gotta throw up a meter can and a meter socket and the whole works. It's gonna get super expensive on our side, and it's just not the right way to do it. The way it's set up right now, but that would be you guys' decision, because we would have to give that equipment to that,
Is it already there, that equipment?
Yeah.
Our
everything.
equipment's setting on,
It's, poles and security lights is what's in there in the wire, and then they pay a security light fee, which I think is $7 a month.
Yeah,
on there.
$7.85.
And I think under our ordinance, when they pay that, we have to maintain all of it.
Yep.
Where if we told them to put a meter back here, you own all that, then they would be paying time and material if we had to come out there and fix it.
you're saying pull the meter back to like the property line or whatever, say from there.
Back
that's-
there, and then
yeah.
they basically take care of,
We
it
can do-
almost kind of be like a farmyard at that point.
Yeah.
It's all yours.
We can do that. One meter reading everything that's going in.
It's small stuff like that.
And then he can meter his own stuff and bill each
Yeah,
individual.
like the lights will be, the security lights will be billed off of that meter, and then, like if one thing they're talking about security cameras, once he put those up, he'd be able to put them wherever he wanted to, throw a couple
It just-
outlets on the poles, whatever it may be.
it got set up ass backwards. No other way to put it, it's
No,
just
that
not a
sounds
good.
like-
So this is just one big lot.
Yeah,
And instead of a bunch of individual lots, it's one lot, and now we're inside and we're doing.
yeah, I think the poles and everything got put up because they wanted security lights. They set a pole, I want one here, here, here. Well, then he paid the $7 or whatever to get that. The city paid for the pole, the light, and the wire to put
Right.
it in there.
I
And
disagree.
then-
I agree with you.
Then on it, it's different if we're putting it right at somebody's house and it's already there, but they would did it where, what he was talking about, and that's what I kinda said, is it'd be a lot cheaper for you to do it this route, as far as if we can get them talked into, we just take care of all that.
I think it'd be cleaner and better for us.
Yeah.
You don't want to get into the habit of giving people poles, lights, whatever.
Yeah.
But the decision was made, and it's in the best interest of the city of Winter to, here, that's you.
Yeah.
I'm good with that, in my opinion.
I don't know if this is gonna happen or not, this is just preliminary talk, but that was.
It makes sense.
That he does wanna add on some outlets, some outdoor outlets and things like that. And so this, obviously, you guys have to give the okay to give away city property. So if it comes back up and they wanna do it, we wanna know what we can tell them and what we can't tell them, so.
I like it. It makes a lot of sense.
Don't matter who or where, it doesn't matter. It sounds like a good plan. Happy birthday yesterday, Ronnie Spring.
Thank you.
Yeah, really?
66 yesterday.
49, huh?
I don't
Still
feel any
49.
older, but
When my son turned 21, he did not. They share the same birthday. And now Jake's 22. What else you got?
That's all I got.
We've talked a lot. We took a lot of your time.
It's fine.
Got anything else?
I'm a better listener.
sometimes that's hard to do.
All right then, gentlemen. Thank you for a good meeting. Productive.
Another day in paradise, right?
Yep,
Yeah.
Something.
I'll be done siding today
We need outlets in these
What are you doing for your
drawers.
birthday?
over there at Kaiser's.
Let's talk to the electrical
Putting
department.
that siding on that house.
Sometimes there is, but these.
Is it this
do not.
Friday?